Just hours ago, the First Lady, Melania Trump, made a surprise trip to Texas where she visited a DHS-sponsored shelter serving as a temporary home to children that are detained at the border. Take a look.
We all know they're here without their families. And I want to thank you for your hard work, your compassion, and your kindness you're giving them in these difficult times. I'm here to learn about your facility, and which I know you house children on a long-term basis. And I also like to ask you how I can help to these children to reunite with their families as quickly as possible.
Now, the First Lady's trip was important. Those remarks were important without a doubt. The First Lady, she's doing a great job. And by the way, is offering so much needed compassion. As I said from the beginning, nobody wants children and parents to be separated. Neither did Donald Trump. He solved Congress's mess. But of course, the media, well, they could only focus on one thing: what Melania was wearing while boarding, literally, the plane to Texas. And a jacket you see there with the words on the back that apparently read, "I really don't care, do you?" Yahoo wrote, Melania Trump wears a jacket to Texas with a pointed message, "I really don't care, do you?" Vanity Fair headline, did Melania Trump just undercut her border visit with a very poorly chosen jacket? Her visit to a migrant children's shelter suggested she cared. Well, her jacket seemed to say otherwise. Then you got CNN editor at large, Melania Trump's "I really don't care, do you" jacket was no mistake. Vogue writing, Melania Trump one-ups her hurricane stilettos with a "I really don't care" jacket worn visiting children at the border. And just take a look at how fake news CNN, which barely bothered to cover the president's rally last night, and conspiracy TV MSNBC did not cover it all. Look at how they cover the jacket.
It was impossible to think that that is aimed at the people she just saw. It's more, I think, likely, just because this is what we do with the First Lady when she wears these things, to maybe the person who she's married to.
I believe she has worn dozens of different coats, and many of them are beautiful.
This one is not.
This one is not. You have a great story today of the First Lady going down, showing compassion for these children, and yet you have this jacket.
This is a picture of Melania Trump boarding Air Force One to head down to McAllen, Texas, to visit some of the children being held in detention centers. She's wearing a green jacket, we believe, that came from the clothing store Zara, and on the back it's written in white, "I really don't care, do you?" She's a model. I mean, she sort of knows the power of clothes.
She does. Now, the director of communications for the First Lady, Stephanie Graham, responded earlier today and tweeted out, quote, "Today's visit with children in Texas impacted the FLOTUS greatly. If the media would spend their time and energy on our actions and efforts to help kids rather than speculate and focus on our wardrobe, well, we could get so much accomplished on behalf of kids." And followed by the hashtag "She Cares," and it's just a jacket. Even President Trump, he did weigh in. This tells a lot. "I really don't care, do you?" written on the back of Melania's jacket refers to the fake news media. Melania has learned how dishonest they are, and she truly no longer cares. By the way, good for her. Why should she trust them?
Media, which has managed to dent the First Lady's popularity. They ran weeks of stories with cruel speculation why Melania Trump had disappeared from public view. She's living in another house. She's in New York. She's back in Eastern Europe. Never mind the fact that she just had fairly significant surgery. A new CNN poll shows her favorability rating is down to 51% from 57% last month. I don't know if I believe that. And now that she's back in the public, the media, well, of course, they found a new reason to pounce. Today, the First Lady visited a Texas shelter housing illegal immigrant children. Good for her. But all the media could do was talk about her jacket. They went into a frenzied search for the hidden meanings of the words emblazoned on the back of her jacket, which read, "I really don't care, do you?" Well, First Lady spokeswoman Stephanie Grisham said in a statement, quote, "It's a jacket. There was no hidden message. After today's important visit to Texas, I hope the media isn't going to choose to focus on her wardrobe." Of course, that was wishful thinking. Let's discuss why the First Lady just keeps getting the mean girls treatment from the media. Anita McBride was chief of staff to First Lady Laura Bush, and Rachel Campos Duffy is a Fox News contributor. All right, Rachel, the president did tweet out that it was a comment about fake news.
Right.
Like, in other words, Melania doesn't care about the fake news, do you? And
right.
It was More importantly, it was a jacket from Zara, Z-A-R-A, and it was $39. I mean,
Right.
you know, so I don't know.
Zara. And you do remember when Michelle Obama went to a homeless feeding event or center and wore $500 sneakers.
Yeah.
But look, it is an odd choice to wear that. Let's all be clear. It is a little of a head scratcher.
Who's her staffer? I mean, I don't want them to get mad at me because everyone look, I'm not a fashion plate myself, but sorry, but people at Fox News, they're great. I love the Fox News. But, you know, I'm more of a jeans and T-shirt kind of person. I'm not like a girly girl. But Melania is so spectacular. She's spectacularly beautiful. I don't even like to stand next to her. She's so beautiful. But that was a odd. And if it's a message, then say I'm goofing on you, media. But
and we may get that. We may find out that that's what it is. I mean, it is a head scratcher. I'm a political spouse. I would not have worn that jacket.
No logos. No logos.
No, I would not have worn that jacket. That said, all the amazing outfits that she's worn, they've never write about it all. No. If you don't watch conservative press, you don't hear all of that. And she makes one misstep. I am curious to see why she wore it. What's the media?
A staffer should say, no.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, because she's probably just threw, who knows, she probably just thrown it on. Like, I just grab whatever's in my closet. I'm like, wait a second, your jacket's inside out. That's what
I don't think Melania just grabs anything.
No, right? Okay, so it was a message. It's ingenious if it was. Anita.
Well, I think that actually was the most valuable comment about this whole issue. As a political spouse, you understand the optics around things like that. And yes, I don't want to say anything negative about the staff either. I know how tough their job is every single day.
But that is their job.
Those are the little nuances that you try and take care of. Yeah.
So you don't want to probably wear the stiletto Manolo Blahniks to.
You don't want it to be a distraction.
I did love that look, Laura. She looked fabulous going to the hurricane. But then she took off her heels. She wore them to get onto Air Force One. She put on her sneakers when she got there. But again, it's just this constant attacks on her. It never ends. And let's face it, they think she's complicit in her husband.
Same thing with Ivanka. They were trashing Ivanka today. They were going after Ivanka. What does Ivanka do in the White House? Well, I mean, nonstop trashing her. The Time magazine cover about President Trump was we finally found out that child, God bless that child, was not one of the children separated from their parents. So they're using children as props in magazine covers as well. The Root, which apparently is some kind of publication, has a headline, Dear Melania Trump, please stop trying to be the moral compass for the White House. You're trash, too.
It's unbelievable.
Outrageous.
But again, but that is a message not just to Melania. That is a message to all conservative women. They say that we are complicit. They say that we are traitors to our gender because we choose to think for ourselves. And that is, and they want, it's a warning to anyone who dares to see the amazing, fabulous economic news and rethink this.
Right.
Remember, don't forget, this week, what happened in Duluth was sort of overshadowed by this event. This is the heart of union, Democrat, working class. These have been for generations Democrats. And he goes in there. They love him. The Democrats are losing working class Americans. And this is all an attempt to cover up all of that goodness.
And I have to say on the separating the children from the families, obviously 500 reunited tonight. But the polling on this, as I suspected, people are not blaming President Trump on this. They're blaming, bad policies and, sadly, irresponsible parents sending children and bringing children on these harrowing journeys. So the public is not where the elites are on this border issue. Everyone has compassion, but they're not blaming President Trump for it.
I think people should. I hope that they read what Mrs. Trump's statement was today after she returned to the White House. I thought it was a really beautiful statement that her visit down there really moved her, and what she said, these children are in this position not through their own fault, but the fault of adults. And that's why I wish this congressional picnic had happened tonight, because she could have been our modern day Dolly Madison, working that crowd of all these members of Congress. This is really up to you to fix this.
It is one of the few bipartisan events, and they canceled it. I understand why they did that, but again, I think that
they'd be trashed if they had it. It's like your picnic.
There's no way they could have survived the media onslaught. But your guest that was on from the Border Patrol, by the way, can I mention children, almost 60% of Border Patrol are Hispanics. Yep. And what he said about those children, as that information starts to get out, thank you for getting that information out. The detention centers are far safer than the journey that these children just came on. And I will say this, you know, people aren't stupid. I spoke to some African Americans who say, gosh, the conditions of the detention center are better than some of the projects that I grew up in. People are looking at this and saying, let's not smear our Border Patrol. They're trying to do the best they can. These children were brought here under horrible, irresponsible circumstances.
And Mrs. Trump, and I saw First Lady Trump, just how someone deals with children. Like, just when she met my kids, who are always, like, totally out of control. And just the way she deals with them, gets down low with them. And you can tell someone by the way they treat children. And for all of you trashing Melania Trump, nice try. It's not working, and you're digging yourself into a deeper hole.
You know what, Laura, though? She's floating above all of it.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
I think she's remarkable that way.
She's classy, and she's winning over people's hearts very quietly in her own style, and she refuses to do it their way. She's doing it her own way.
Yeah, and isn't that what we want in women? Shouldn't women do it? You know, she's not going to be like Michelle Obama. She's not going to be like, you know, but if anyone said anything about the Obama daughters, like they said about that Barron Trump and that horrible comment about Barron Trump, I mean, they would be doing nonstop coverage of it.
Absolutely.
All right, great panel. Thank you so much to both of you. And up next, exclusive new details, what Congress may do to DOJ and the FBI brass. They don't turn over those.
The read on all of this and the significance of what happened today, let's get a sense of it right now. We have Harlan Hill joining us. We also have Catalina Magazine publisher Kathy Rowe, and last but not least, Deneen Borelli. I apologize, guys. I was out of order there. Let me, Deneen, get your sense of the trip today. There's so much to get into here, but the significance of it, because the First Lady played a prominent role, we are told, in these positions the president ultimately took to reverse the old way of doing things and maybe sign an executive order that would stop separating kids from their parents.
Sure. I think it's great that Melania Trump visited the detention center in Texas, and she has always made an effort to put her face out there, even when they had the floods in Texas as well. She made the trip there. Right. But I got to say, the criticism against anyone associated with President Trump, associates, family, the outrage and criticism is really off the charts. No matter what the president does or says, no matter what his family does or says, they are shredded and taken down to no ends. We didn't see this kind of rhetoric, especially when the actor went after Barron Trump. We didn't see that.
I agree, but let's stick to the subject here. Do you think, Arlen, when you look at this and this trip, and a lot of people said that her whole point in going down there was to see for herself at the border whether some of these stories that you saw, and some were very legit, where a lot of kids were screaming and crying, they're separated from their parents and all, whether this was a case of abuse and all of that. She wanted to see a facility here where 12 to 17-year-olds were apparently treated very well and very well fed and all of that and taken care of. And that eased not only her concerns, but she asked the questions a mom would ask about how the kids are doing. Yeah. How did that impact today?
Well, I think that it was an appropriate move, and it's showing that the First Lady of the United States can lead. What I find incredibly disheartening about it is that, just like in the case of the floods in Texas, what the media has decided to hyperfixate on are her sartorial decisions, not the words that she spoke while she was there.
Let's get into that. Her sartorial decisions, I mean, what you make a big sting about is the coat that she wore, the jacket, more to the point, when she left Washington. Now, of course, when she arrived on the border, of course, it was much hotter. She didn't need to wear it. But this quote in question, could I see the full quote of what it is, what it says, Pam? I really don't care. And that jacket had a lot of people wondering, do you really not care about the kids, or do you really not care about what? Now, this jacket, and the line of this jacket is such that a lot of people make a big deal of it, but there are plenty of other, writings on the back of other jackets from this designer, and it's a $39 jacket, I understand. But what did you make of the fuss over it?
Well, it's so Negative. We want to be so happy that Melania said govern with your heart, that she stood by the other first lady saying that this is wrong, that children are being separated from their parents. And then she goes and makes the statement while wearing this jacket that says, I really don't care.
You think it was deliberate?
I can't imagine
you don't think
someone
she was talking about the kids.
She understands fashion so well. She's so beautiful and well dressed. And then she wears a jacket that says,
absurd.
The jacket says, I don't care.
The First Lady of the United States does not care about young children.
I didn't say she doesn't care.
That's exactly what
I didn't say she didn't care. I said she wore a jacket. No. I wore a jacket that said she didn't care.
It's not worth yelling. But I do want to understand whether you look at this. It might not have been about the kids. In fact, I assume it wasn't. But she could have been making a bigger statement, and to wear something like this, and she knows every article of clothing she puts on, the supermodel and all that. What do you think?
Yeah, she does. And you know what? I think she's going after the mainstream media because, again, the Trumps can't do anything right no matter what the situation is. So if anything, and I can't speak for her, but this is just my first thought. I just read about this, what happened. If anything, she's pushing back on the media that will not report the progress that this president is making.
I am not going to use some of these other examples on the jackets. I think we talked too long about the jacket thing. I will say this. Did she risk stepping on a message, whether it was deliberate or not, because she got rave reviews for going down, for many say changing the president's mind on this issue in the first place, and maybe putting this in a whole new light? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I mean, she didn't wear it to the actual event. She just wore it to board the plane. But all of this has proven to be a distraction from what actually matters, which is that tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors come across our border, and Amnesty International and Fusion just did a report last year that was reported by the Huffington Post that showed that 80% of girls and young women that make the journey to the United States illegally are molested and raped along the way. Those are liberal organizations and outlets that are reporting this. We have an epidemic that's coming across our border, and we have to do something to sort it. And you're not hearing any of that in the mainstream media.
But
it's
let's
this
talk about it. Kathy, one of the things I think had to be done, I think people were forming one view of the treatment of kids at the hands of immigration officials or any of our officials. She wanted to see, gosh, is all of this true? Speaking as a mom, her questions were driven as a mom. How the kids,
and as an immigrant,
how the kids
she's
treated,
an immigrant.
And are they fed properly, and where do they sleep, and all legitimate mom questions, and I thought very genuine. So. Did she change people's impression about, we had the impression all these kids were being beaten and starved, and we've seen all of this stuff. Did it go to that extent and offer another view? And that the goal of her trip then was it was successful in that respect.
It was successful that we see that someone at the White House cares. I mean, the images have been that no one seems to care.
That's a little mean. Why, you're saying the president was the one who signed this executive order that reversed this, right?
Well, but someone really cares to go and see and actually see the children. She's an immigrant. That means so much. She wanted to see other immigrants, what they're going through. So it was kind of a beautiful gesture that she went down there to see. So are you saying
Democrats are the only ones that care about this?
I didn't say that. I said someone at the White House truly cares to go there. She's showing that she truly cares that she went down there.
You cornered the line.
She said, govern with your heart.
You just said.
She said, govern with your heart.
You just said that Democrats they care, but only one person at the White House
Someone at the White House is caring. And it was a nice gesture.
It is a nice gesture.
It's not a cheap shot. No, it's not a cheap shot.
You don't have to be Republican or Democrat to know that's a cheap shot.
I don't think it's cheap. I think it was a gesture. That's what she was doing. She has the highest approval ratings at the White House right now. People like her the most.
The huge double standard here. Under former President Obama, there were photos of these children that were detained when the illegal aliens came across the border with children. Those photos were kept under wrap. You can go to Daily Caller right now and see the photos. No, there was no outrage, no crying, no criticism back then. Now all of a sudden, everything is all heck is breaking loose.
Well, a lot has happened in different ministries. You're quite right. I do want to try to advance the ball a little bit to say whether something constructive can come out of this. We had talk today that a moderate bill, of course, has been pulled for the time being to address this issue. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. Maybe what Melania Trump did today might be helping to get passage or something like that. Your thoughts?
Well, there's some boxes that need to be checked. We need to build a wall. We need mandatory E-Verify. There are things that the Republicans expect out of any deal in exchange for something like amnesty. And I'm concerned that what we've seen out of the early plans from Speaker Ryan is that we're not going to get that. We're going to get more empty promises, and there will be a revolt in 2018.
This moderate measure, it could have more support than people thought.
Okay, I'll remain hopeful, but what we've seen so far is not promising.
All right, so when the president asked and suggested that any Democrat could come to the White House to help him out on this issue, and as of this writing, no one has.
Oh, because he's always been so open with the Democrats, and he's so polite. I mean, he calls them brain dead, he calls them losers.
I'm just saying, well, they were calling him everything but Lucifer, and that he didn't care about these kids.
Right.
You intimated as much at the start of this. So do you think we should let the bygones be bygones and the nasty, vituperative comments be gone so we can get something done?
Yeah, we
and
need
quit saying there's only one person at the White House.
We need comprehensive immigration reform. We do need it. We have 12 million people living here in the shadows. We don't know who they are.
But you pick and choose what you want to reform and deal with right away. So the president says, come on over. You say?
Come on over
to the White House.
To the White House. Well, I mean, do we trust him? He's so unpredictable. I mean, what does that mean? Come on over. I wouldn't trust him.
She doesn't even want to negotiate.
I would trust him if he invited me.
I want to thank you all very much. I did want to keep this on message here, so people on the Never Trump or Always Trump. I don't know. Someone's going to be ticked off.